Thank you. In relation to section 67.1, just to seek clarification, and I know it's laid under section 65.12 and section 66.10, so as to ensure that those services are delivered insofar as practical in accordance with the plan, in a manner that does not exceed the resources available to An Garda Síochána for the period in which the plan relates. And I know the Senator has placed an amendment in relation to the issue of in the period for an annual.
We're not participating in debate, to leave the chamber so that members can hear the debate. Thank you. Sorry, members. Thank you.
No, thank you, Cathaoirleach. For the period, I know the amendment relates into the period for which the annual service plan.
Senator, it's very hard to hear you. Sorry, no, my apologies. I genuinely can't hear you. Sorry. I'm not being facetious. I just genuinely can't hear you. Would you speak into the microphone if you don't mind? Sorry.
I'm speaking down to the microphone. Thank you, Cathaoirleach, but I'm speaking down to the microphone. So maybe an issue with the microphone. No one's ever said that they couldn't hear me before, so that is a fault.
There's always a Senator Daly, to the section, please.
Thank you. Just in relation to the amendment, just in relation to the period for the service plan, so informed that the authority and the minister are just seeking clarification around the not exceeding the resources available on the Garda Síochána and how that is determined and what are the consequences if they so do in relation to the plan itself. But that might be in relation to the section. Sorry, Cathaoirleach.
I can hear you much clearer at the end of your contribution.
I know, that's because I was sitting down, getting closer to the microphone. Maybe I should just sit next to
and Tara?
Thank you. So obviously this particular section is specific to whom the Garda Commissioner must engage with if they're going to exceed the resources that are available to them for the period of that particular plan. As I've mentioned, what we're ensuring is that the Commissioner must engage with not just the Minister but also with the Board, who will now have responsibility for that oversight, where there are resources or where they have exceeded or where they potentially will exceed. Obviously it's then to engage with the Minister if there's additional funding that's required, in the same way that would be the case, be it in additional overtime, be it in other areas where the Commissioner might need additional funding or resourcing to fulfil the actual plan itself. There will then have to be engagement with the Minister to see how that can then be addressed, depending on what it is exactly that they're exceeding or how much it's been exceeded by.
Oh, sorry, Cathaoirleach. Just in relation to the point of section 68.6, it's in relation to the Garda Commissioner, if he fails, and I know this was made in previous sections, in relation to if the Garda Commissioner fails to submit, in this case, a capital plan, the Minister, within a specified period, the Minister may, in writing, issue a direction to the Garda Commissioner to prepare and submit a capital plan to him or her not later than 10 days after the date on which the Minister issues the directions to the Garda Commissioner, or such earlier dates as may be specified. And then obviously the Garda Commissioner must comply, and it says that in section 7, but it does not outline any consequences for the Garda Commissioner in the event of the fact that the 10-day period is not met with. Now, the reason I raised that up is because it's not, and I meant to raise it in section 65.5. No, but I'm just saying it's the same wording as the previous sections, and I brought this about consistency and measurement. And this is in relation to the fact that while the Garda Commissioner has to do something under the direction of the Minister, it is not clear, and there's a 10-day period for which that must be done, that what happens if the Garda Commissioner does not comply with the Minister's orders. And I think that's a fair question, and it's not repetition.
Tara?
So no, there's a separate capital plan for prisons that come in under the Department of Justice. The Act itself, I suppose, has to assume compliance with the 10 days. In extreme circumstances, you would go to the Board and you would issue, obviously, whether it be a warning or not, but I think it would be assumed that if the Minister directed something to be done within the 10 days, that it would happen, or that reasonable excuse could be given as to why that can't be the case, but there would need to be engagement. I think, again, as I said, the assumption is that there would be compliance within the 10 days, but in the extreme scenarios, you could go to the Board, or the Minister could go to the Board.
Do you wish to speak in section 70, Cathaoirleach?
Yeah.
Okay, please resume.
To reiterate the point, I didn't call a vote, and I didn't oppose a vote. Somebody said vote all. That's
on section 70 now.
Yeah, just in relation to section 70, the annual report shall, this is section 72, the annual report shall not be adopted by the Minister unless, and this goes back to the implementation of the strategic plan under section 64.1. I just wanted to maybe get clarification on the broader point made under on this section G and any other matters that the board might think fit. I think that's a bit broad, and I just wonder if the Minister has any thoughts on how that might be narrowed a small bit, because I think it's giving an undue array of views, open to the board in relation to that particular element in relation to the annual report. And again, going back to the Garda Commissioner, no later than 4 months after the end of each year, prepare and submit. But again, it makes my point on the previous section, where what are the consequences if the 4-month deadline is not achieved by the Garda Commissioner.
Tara,
I suppose the fact that A to F are very specific, G is simply a provision that allows for, as it rightly says, any other matters that the board thinks fit in producing the report or the annual report. So I can't imagine that the reports would have a reference to hospitals or to shops or to retail or to any other matter that doesn't involve the role of An Garda Síochána. So it's intentionally open for that regard. It has to be. And again, no later than 4 months. You have to assume compliance with this by An Garda Síochána and by the Commissioner. But obviously, if there's for some reason that this isn't done, I'm sure there would be engagement between the Minister and the Commissioner.
And last, Senator Daly.
You might rule me out on this one because it might sound like repetition, but the reason I'm making the point is because it says the same thing again, a report on the performance of An Garda Síochána during the preceding years. This is in relation to section 71, where the Minister will get this report. The reason
section 70 now, you know that.
Yeah, section 70, subsection 1, is that in relation to the report on the performance, and it goes back to the point I had made on this topic, but it's in relation to this section relevant as well, is what the measurement of that, who's allocated, what are the consequences for those performances not being met. And I know that sounds like repetition, but it is in the section, and that's the point I'm making on that. And again, and I know this also sounds like repetition, Senator Ryan, but it goes back to the main point that we had made previously, but it is in this section as well, section 70 and this 76, subsection 6. Again, it doesn't allow for printed copies of the report. It says that the Minister may exclude from the report, the annual report being laid before the Oireachtas, which it's the Garda Commissioner to ensure as soon as practical, would be laid before the Oireachtas. But again, it's not necessarily available to the public. It also talks about being available on websites, but not in this section, but in other sections. But I'm conscious that members of the public would have access to this as a basis, as they should have all government reports, and that should be done through our library service, which would be accessible. But it would be a printed copy and not relying on people having it basically means that people who don't have access to the internet, which we all assume everyone does, but we all know that's not the case, they don't then have access to the report itself. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Margaret, thank you, Last Cathaoirleach. Anish and Senator Daly, Last Cathaoirleach, you put your hand up to speak, is that correct, Senator? Last Cathaoirleach?
Just on section 71.
Section 71.
And again, I know, and
and then I bring the Minister in, and then Senator Gallagher, you might consider the request from the proposal from Senator Coyne.
Do you want to bring the Minister in first?
I'm going to bring you in now.
Oh, yeah,
I've indicated you are
so
in possession.
Again goes back to the point I made, and it's the issue of under section 71.5 that the board shall, as soon as practical, after the approval by the Minister under subsection 3 of the governance framework, arrange for the publication of the framework on a website maintained by or on behalf of the Garda Síochána. Goes back, and this has been made over and over again, and it sounds like repetition, but the same issue keeps coming up over and over again, that the view in relation to government of publication report means only on websites, which then by definition means it's not available to those who are not able to access websites. So I think as an overall principle, and I know the Minister has responded to this each time I've raised it on each of the sections, I think it might have been an oversight on the part of the officials because, as I've said, we all live in a digital age. We just assume everybody has. No, but I'm
just saying you are repeating yourself.
But I'm repeating myself because the same section.
Mind last, Kerrick, you're a long-time member of the House and you've chaired the House, and you.
I'm repeating myself and getting the same answer, but it's the same question. Is because it's in the section 5.
You should know better than most now.
A view of government is a publication report is only on a website. That's or such other manners that the minister may specify. But what I'd like as a principle, and that's not allowable because there's no mention here that there would be subsequent statutory instruments outlining how the minister would specify that those frameworks and all the other documents that I've referred to would be published only on websites, and that is a disservice to our members of the community who do not have access to the internet.
Is well capable of functioning under the old system that was there, and all of this extra furniture is only complicating the matter. So I'll leave it at that.
Margaret, and could I welcome, before I call the Minister, the President of AILG, Councillor Gail Dunn, to the public gallery. Thank you for being here today. Antara.
Thank you. So again, just going back to some of the questions, again, it's stipulated in the bill as to how the Minister would lay this before the Houses. Section 75 clearly outlines, again, the fact that it's been made online means that it is being made available to the public. I have no doubt, though, that if somebody wanted a hard copy, they could get it printed off in the library. In terms of the overall bill itself, I think there's many in this House would agree that there have been situations in the not too distant past which would have benefited from greater structures and oversight than we currently have. So while change can be challenging, I think change can also be good. The Minister still has full accountability, and in fact every single section of this comes directly back to the Minister. Thank you.